Hello and welcome to this video with an astrological update from the lovely Amy Bird and the lovely Liz Nagle, who, if you haven't already met before, check them out in previous videos on this channel. And we will dive straight in because we haven't got so much time today. So, Amy, do you want to enlighten us as to what we can look forward to as far as astrology goes?
Okay, so just in this particular moment, we're in Cancer, this Cancer season, and we're approaching the Cancer new moon, which Cancer is the sign of family and home and childhood, and also our ancestral line. And I feel like there's been a lot of conversation coming up in recent times around the ancestral line and the like what patterns are carrying through from from our father's line and our mother's line. And I think that that's a good thing to contemplate. And also, obviously Cancer is the family relationships that we've experienced in our childhood, how they end up repeating in our adult lives, and how we end up marrying our mother, or things like that. So that's the kind of thing that comes up in Cancer and a Cancer new moon. And I always find that it's a very important time for kind of like letting go and surrendering in the dark of the moon, and for like then contemplating, or I say contemplating, but I think sometimes people go, oh, I need to set an intention and like really think through their intentions for a new moon. But often I find that what the natural conversations that come up with friends and things like that, that kind of taps more into what you're really, really yearning for, I think. So I guess it's important to keep an eye on those conversations and see what does pop up. But yeah, one of the things that is definitely going on with this is like the theme of fulfillment, and what really truly nourishes us. And I think that's where the Sabian symbol for this new moon is something to do with like guests at a sumptuous dinner, and how they're really fulfilled. But it's like this gratification, almost like, are they trying to eat to kind of make themselves feel better or something? But it made me think, well, what ultimately would fulfill us? And then I came to this kind of like, well, Cancer is about the inner child as well, and that inner child in all of us. And maybe it's about asking our inner child what that wants. And then it led me to think, well, when it comes down to it, what do any of us need? And those needs are actually quite simple in order to be fulfilled. And if you were to strip away the non-essentials and the things that don't matter, what do we actually need? But one of the things that I do think with Cancer, and we've had this discussion before, is that on the one hand, it's about kind of coming home to yourself, and that is really, really important. But Cancer also represents the base, and that foundation, the home, and it's the roots, as in our ancestral roots, and that's what we spring from out into the world. But it's also our home. And so I think that that's a big part of this moon as well. What is home? Where is home? Where would we like to be? Where would we like home to be? If we don't have a home, what would our ideal home look like? So it is a really good moon to kind of harness those energies. And Saturn is on our side with this one as well. Saturn is supporting the whole thing. It's supporting the sun and moon. It's just gone retrograde. And I've got a sense with we were talking about this earlier, a sense with Saturn in Pisces, because there's a very strange coupling. Saturn, the lord of karma and boundaries, in the sign that knows no boundaries, and but what I have really come to is that I've realized there's quite a few people really getting to grips with this whole going with the flow business, and what it means to actually recognize when the door's closed and there isn't flow and there's resistance, and to kind of go, okay, so where in my long-term goals, Saturn, is the flow happening? And my long-term plan, Saturn, and you know, being patient about it and waiting for the time to be right. I kind of have got a sense that that's part of the story with Saturn in Pisces. But Saturn helping this moon, I think, can help make our dreams into reality. I think Saturn in Pisces, and that's a beautiful thing, you know. Saturn, like Pisces, is the part of us that can dream and fantasize, and Saturn is like, well, how are you going to actually make that happen, and is this a realistic one, and you know, how are you going to do that, what are your long-term goals in this area, you know. It's you know, that's if I was Saturn how I would talk. But yeah, so I think that in terms of like whatever we would like for our fulfillment, I think Saturn is there to go, okay, yes, it can bring a reality check, Saturn can, and make us see things as they really are, rather than how we would want them to be, or our, you know, rose tinted spectacles. But at the same time, it can actually concretely help us make things happen. And it has just also, I'll stop talking in a minute, but Saturn has just gone retrograde on the 29th of June, which was this weekend. And it will be retrograde until the 15th of November. And I think if anybody who's listening to this knows their charts, what has happened between the 15th of March this year and now, Saturn's gone from 12 degrees to 19 degrees Pisces. And in that time, wherever those degrees are in our chart, we've been learning certain Saturnian lessons about reality, about, you know, growing up, or, you know, maybe recognizing that things are the way they are rather than the way we might like them to be, and finding peace with that. There's all sorts of lessons. Someone was saying the other day that Saturn is like, it's not a very tasty medicine, but it's ever so good for us. And I kind of like that analogy. But yeah, so Saturn has been going from the 12 degrees to 19, and now it's going to go back over them. So any planets you've got between 12 and 19 may have been aspected by Saturn along the way. For instance, my sun is 18 degrees Leo, and Saturn was in conjunct just after, literally 3 days after I got back from you guys in visiting you in Spain. And I had this, like, I didn't realize it was Saturn aspecting my sun. And then I just was like, and I suddenly had this moment of just like complete depression, going, okay, so I've just experienced this beautiful, you know, community over there, and just like where everybody's happy. And I mean, I know everybody's not happy all the time, but open was the way I, you know, and content, and a general good vibe. And then here am I behind my computer, you know, in London, going, and it was just this massive reality check. And then I looked at my chart and was like, well, of course, Saturn is in conjunct my sun right now, making it all very real, very real indeed. So that's my example. So basically, it'll be going back over that again, oh joy. And it'll be going whatever area of life that between 12 degrees and 19 degrees it is, then you're going back over lessons that you've learned, over some reality checks that you've experienced, or growing up experiences you've had in the past while. And then it'll, after the 15th of November, it'll go back over them again. So that's me in a, like, that's what's going on in the here and now business, really. Saturn feels like it's quite important at the moment, but Neptune's also just gone retrograde, and it's in the very, very final degree of Pisces, which feels very significant to me. And it feels like, I don't know, like there's an ending happening here. There's something ending, but there could be something really amazing happening as well, you know, in our spiritual life, that is. So yeah, so that's what's going on.
Wow.
Any thoughts?
I'm glad I've no planets at those degrees. My DC is just before that. Does that make any difference?
Just before.
It's just before the 12 degrees of.
Well, yeah, it'll kind of like be twiddling with it. Yes. It'll
So
definitely be activating it. Yeah.
Just remind me what DC is.
The DC is the line that is opposite your ascendant, and it's the cusp of your relationship house. So it'll be affecting your relationships basically. So yeah. What degree is your DC? 11 degrees or something?
Sorry, hold on.
Okay.
2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, I should have put up my
8.
chart as well, because I haven't got mine available.
8 degrees.
Between 8 and 9, yeah.
Right. So basically that means Saturn is in your 7th house already.
Yes,
Already
it is.
doing its business.
Yes.
And it's going to kind of like tickle the DC, but not strongly, I would say. Yeah. But that will be kind of giving you some lessons in your relationships, basically, in your house of relationships. But also there's deeper commitments that come with that. There's testing of relationships, the ones that are solid, the ones that are not so solid. But then there's also and maybe taking the rose-tinted spectacles off a little bit in that area. If you've got Pisces on your descendant, and so there's the tendency to see people, as you would, in their divine potential, which is beautiful. Saturn is the lord of reality. It's like, okay, let's see them as they are and not put them on, not like project an ideal or beauty onto them that isn't there. That could be quite helpful in some ways. So, and that's what Saturn in Pisces could do for all of us. Pisces wants to wear the rose-tinted spectacles, and Saturn is very much like, oh no, this is how it actually really is.
Yeah, I think it's less relevant for me personally, but I think that's really relevant for the collective.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Even though there isn't.
Sorry, what was that, Liz?
Even though there is only me. But collective. Collective is all in me.
And we all are.
Yeah.
Collective.
Well, I'm feeling very much, you mentioned the Neptune in Pisces, and you're feeling like there's something really big ending. That's really resonating with me in my own personal life, which is all there is, because there is only me. But yeah, something ending, but of course ending means something beginning. But it's just that we're aware of what's ending. We're not aware of what's coming in. But when you trust the process of life, then you can look forward to something better, because we understand that everything's just going to get better and better, right? So that's quite exciting.
And Neptune is all around surrender. And that's what it does, especially in the last degree of Pisces. It's just like, let go. And it can make everything quite unclear. There's the sense that things are ending. There's something passing away, but what's actually going to take its place and what's next? Can't quite see, except exactly as you say, to trust.
Yeah, and we don't need to know that, do we? We don't need to know. Well, in fact, if you try and fathom it all out and plan it and think it, I'm just so aware that I can only think with my limited human mind. So I just don't bother.
Yeah.
Very sensible.
Yeah. No point, because we're only going to recreate what's already been created, and we want something new. We want something that we can't even imagine.
Yeah, that we can't fathom. And because it's like don't it was what's his name? Mike Dooley, that talks about accursed house. He's like, if you try and work out how something's gonna happen, but how's that gonna happen? How's that gonna play out? It's like you can't, our human minds don't instinctively think in miracles. Hopefully we can train them to. Maybe we need to. I mean, I believe in miracles because I've seen so many, and so there's a part of me that's expecting miracles to come in. But it is like reprogramming your mind, isn't it? Because if you're not naturally instinctively thinking in miracles, then you're kind of almost dumbing yourself down, aren't you? So it's best to just, and what do they say? That just get out of the way. Just get out of the way. Get your human out of the way and let the divine flow through, because that's for me, Neptune in Pisces is asking us to do that.
Yeah, it's a completely trust, as well. Trust in the divine and what, yeah. Just let go. Let go. Yeah.
I had I was telling Deborah, I went swimming yesterday morning in the sea, and it was a little bit wavier than I like, and I just like to float, and I was worried that the wave was going to come and, knock me down and come over my head. And so I kept kind of looking back over my shoulder and not relaxing. And of course, then the wave would come and hit me right in the face, And I thought, no, I just need to relax. I just need to relax and float, and then the wave will come, and I'll come up with it, and I'll go down with it, and it'll all be fine once I relax and just go with the flow.
Yeah.
And and once I did that, it was absolutely fine. And I swear to God, no waves crashed near me after that. Once I relaxed, the crashing seemed to avoid me and just left me floating.
Lovely.
It's weird.
Yeah, I actually wrote that in my moon post about it's about catching the right wave. Yeah, because the right wave will come along, and you just have to be ready for it and just allow it to take you.
Yes, well, not even be ready for it, but just be ready. Just be trusting that the right wave will come along at the right time, and you'll be exactly where you're meant to be, and it'll all be perfect.
Yeah.
So it's not even sorry, we can't even do anything to get ready or prepare. All we can do is let go and trust.
Yeah. I think people do spend a lot of time worrying about what could happen and potentials instead of doing exactly that.
And looking over their shoulder and then getting slapped in the face with a wave.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just pulled a couple of cards because I wanted to see if they were going to tell us anything more. Because when we were saying let go and seeing things not so clearly and all of this, I was thinking, I always think the Queen of Swords, and I was just like, oh, let's just pull some cards, but she isn't here. The two cards that did come out, and I think they are really appropriate, is we've got the Knight of Cups. And he is in his flow, of course, because cups is water and horses are positive movement forward. And he isn't looking back, he is just focused on his heart, focused on feeling his emotions, because the cups are, intuition. He's following his intuition, being creative, however he's inspired to be. And I love the fact that I like the idea that knights, of course, are protected, and he's protected by following his intuition. That's how we're protected. It's like Liz just saying, so she felt anxious, but by tapping into our consciousness, because cups really do relate to our more spiritual nature. And so by tapping into that, she was more protected. And so I can see all of that in the Knight of Cups, and what's he walking towards? He's walking towards the Emperor, of course, which is powerful I am. I am, and there is only I am. And but not only that, because of course he's Aries, and we were talking a bit earlier on. So you've got, after Saturn has gone in retrograde, it's moving into Aries, which I think is quite relevant. And there was another one, isn't it? Oh yeah, of course, Neptune, when it's finished, in Pisces, is moving into Aries. So it's pretty much saying, like, it's the same old message: follow your intuition, follow your heart, and use your spiritual toolbox. It is about using your spiritual toolbox to keep you in the here and now, because we are going to this. And of course, he is a pioneer, and we are creating a whole new earth, aren't we?
We are. The other thing about the Cancer new moon is that the follow of the really listening to our emotions as well and what they have to tell us, including anxiety, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Mm.
whatever it is that comes up, they have something to teach us, you know. If we're willing to listen to them, then they can definitely be the guideposts. I definitely find, you know, I mean, we all do, you know, but when I'm talking about something like I was talking about wanting a home the other day, and I was just talking about it to friends, and then all of a sudden this wave of tears came, and I was like, well, I must really mean that, you know, and I just was like, okay, I'm really going to listen to this because this is like even more important than I even knew, you know, because of the emotions coming up. And yeah, definitely a big yeah, I think they're not for no reason. I guess that they like like when I do a reading, for instance, as well, like if tears come then is that emotion, or is that like the universe telling me that
It's
I'm on
resonance. It's resonance as
resonance?
well. I refer to that quite a lot because or truth bumps, as I like to call them.
I get
So
some of them at the same time.
yes, exactly. And those tears that kind of come, for me, that's resonance, and it often happens when I've heard something or I've said something that I really need to heed. And the example I've given a number of times before is when Liz and I were sitting in a friend's tent before the garden retreat was born. And we were sitting in a friend's tent admiring it. And she knew that Liz knew I was looking for a place to do massage and maybe yoga and stuff. And I couldn't build because, you know, I had no planning permission and everyone overlooks the place. And Liz just said, you've got to get yourself a tent. And it was that, those tears, all that, it's an energy. I think it's a realization. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a realization. So that tells you that you need to do that. You need to
Yes.
follow that, and you might not know how or why or anything. So in your case, Amy, I'm sure that when you were saying that, you know, there's this realization that yes, you need your own home. You
Yeah.
know, you're being guided to find your own little paradise, your own little
Yeah.
castle, you know, a place that you is just going to be full of your energy. And yeah, you see, look at the way you're smiling now, just at the thought of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
your soul is, that's interesting because your soul is asking you to do that, right? Your soul is asking you to put that top of your agenda. And the messages for July that I did were all about what does your soul want you to do?
Uh,
That's what they were about. What does your soul want you to do? And how do we know what our soul wants us to do? So in that case, my soul wanted me to get a tent, but my human had no idea why. But you know, your soul wants you to get a home. And I can imagine that, you know, just by having a home, it isn't that, you know, it's not for possessive reasons. It's purely because when you're in that state of relaxation and gratitude and in your own energy, you know, what's going to come out from that is just going to be, yeah, perfect, isn't it? Something that we don't need to know at the moment, right? So
yeah.
it's back to the Neptune in Pisces, something ending and then something beautifully new coming out of it.
And needing to have the faith and trust to kind of
The
No,
right
no,
home
allow.
will come
not
at the
worry
right
about the
time.
how, because if your soul wants you to have it, it's already yours, right?
Yeah.
Already
Yes.
yours. So, but I was listening, just that you when you mentioned coming home, you know, or going home and cancer and the home and the shell and all of that. I was listening to not Han a lot for the last few days, and he talks a lot about coming home to the self and following the sound of the bell. And as you're listening to the sound of the bell, you know, I am aware that this sound is taking me home. And, you know, not having had my own shell home for most of my life, this, like now that I do, I fully appreciate what it has given me in terms of, obviously there is just, the home is in here, but having that shell around you gives you the opportunity to feel that softness inside, you know, and to get home, to be at home in yourself.
Yes. A
So
physical space that represents that.
it's a representation of,
And
yeah,
safe.
your state of being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this is why so many people, I'm coming across so many people who are downsizing. And there's a lot of people tiny living. Maybe it's just the people in my reality because I'm tiny living. But there's a lot of people doing it. And I think it is because, you know, it's a way to not have a mortgage, not have rent, you know, and it's the freedom. Because of course, again, this is all part of the Pluto moving into Aquarius, isn't it? It's having that freedom and freedom and security. It's these things that are so important to us.
Okay, it's not, security is an illusion, but it's an illusion that we can use for our benefit. You know, we can use that that feeling to help us expand from there. And if you think the security is actually in the house or the land or the this or that, that's not where it is, but you can use it to feel it and work from there.
Definitely. And also you can create it by you can create it outside of you if that's what you want, the freedom and the security, if that's something that your human wants, but you can create it outside of you by creating it on the inside. And that's really important. The abundance, the freedom, and the security are all energies, are all frequencies. And if we can create the frequency within us, then it has to be created outside of us. Because when you were talking about feelings earlier on, and using them as our guidance, it's kind of really important, I think, to understand that whatever the frequency of our feelings is what we are contributing to the collective. And it reminded me of, and it's such a beautiful audio book. It's only 45 minutes. It's on YouTube. It's called Feeling is the Secret, and it's by Neville Goddard. And that is a really powerful book. It just reminds us that the feeling is everything, because the feeling is creating the frequency that is creating your reality.
Yep.
And the feeling is what you are experiencing, you know, that is your experience
in the now moment.
Yeah.
Yes. What you were saying about the that feels quite resonant to the whole cancer experience, that the home and our childhood and our roots are what we spring from out into the world. It's opposite to the 10th house or Capricorn, which is more, you know, outer worldly, you know, and being out in the world, maybe our career or what we do out in the, you know, out in the outer world. But what happens in that inner world is what helps us propel us out. And so it is very helpful to have a physical base as well as a good emotional base from which to spring. And if, you know, for instance, the cancer experience has been tricky and the childhood has not been easy, then that would lead to an inner sense of insecurity that makes it harder to spring out into the world. Yeah. And it also follows on actually from, as I mentioned in the workshop that I did there, it follows on Cancer to Leo. If our cancer experience is good and we feel emotionally secure and we're not, you know, insecure, then the Leo experience, we don't need to be validated by anybody else because we're already okay. We don't have to get attention from other people or for someone else to tell us that we're special, because we already know we are. So I think Cancer this season, and everything to do with Cancer, I feel like it's such an integral part of our experience, isn't it? That the inner self, our inner home, our physical home, our childhood, our family, everything, our roots, our ancestry. It's quite a big one.
It's huge. It's massive, and I think ancestry is really a big theme at the moment. You know, in the terms of the here and now, and you know, appreciating everything that has come before, even in my own life, even in our own lives, everything that happened, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent, got me to this place from where I can create. And yes, the more secure, free, happy, self-confident that I feel, the better the life that I'm going to create.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's a little, well, for us anyway, maybe not for everybody, but a little energy of solitude as well. I don't know whether that's relevant for Cancer, probably not, because it's quite homey with the family. But so in my case, it's like, you know, I've got that home, obviously, but to have, you know, when your grown-up child leaves, there's like reclaiming. I don't know. I don't mean it, you know, there's some kind of reclamation going on whereby it's like claiming that solitude, or, you know, reclaiming it, or having your house all to yourself. I don't know. There's something energetically, I don't know.
Well, it's your own shell, isn't it? I mean, it's you know, crabs don't share their shells.
Yeah. But it would be it's the same for Amy. It would be good for Amy as well, because it will include that solitude, you know.
Yeah, but also sharing and putting my stamp on my shell.
Yeah.
This is Amy's shell.
Yeah, gorgeous.
With Amy flavor shell. Yeah, I think I feel that a lot of Cancerians, or people with Cancer, or the Cancer experience, it's not solitude per se, but it is having somewhere that you can go to
be yourself
at the end of the day, that to be completely yourself, and to kind of not have to deal with the rest of the world, you know. So that may be on your own, or it may be with the people that you're most comfortable with in the world, i.e. family, or close friends, or, you know, things like that. So yeah.
Or your cat.
Or your cat. Oh, tuppence. Little buddy.
Auntie
Excellent.
Amy.
Is there anything else that we want to share? Because I know that Amy has to brush off. But is there anything else that we want to share on the present day energies and astrology?
The only thing I would say is that we do have an upcoming, we've got two moons in Capricorn this month. We had one on the 5th, I think. No, that was the other day. That's coming up. The one on the 22nd, I think, and then there's going to be one on the 21st of July. And that is the last degree of Capricorn. And it feels important somehow, because Pluto's sitting right next to it. The Neptune we've just been talking about is supporting it. So I'm looking at the chart as I'm like, and the Sabian symbol for the moon, I'm just sending it out there, it felt like the emperor. But anyway, directors of a large firm meet in secret conference. Interesting. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see what this one might bring, but it does feel like there is a kind of a transformation or a shift coming with that one. And again, Neptune is in on the act in a really positive way, helping everybody out, because it's at 29 degrees and the sun and moon are at 29 degrees. And so they are like, it's like just trust what might come next. but Capricorn is very much about external authority.
Yeah.
But it's opposite the moon in Cancer, and the moon is the matriarchy, and Capricorn. So Cancer is the matriarchy, and Capricorn is the patriarchy. And the other thing I would say is Pluto's about to go back into, for the last very, very final stay in Capricorn. Very, very last time it's going to do it. And that is a kind of like, if Pluto is the great destroyer and kind of raises things to the ground in order for something more healthy to be born, it's the last chance that Pluto has to do some raising of the ground in terms of patriarchal values, maybe, you know. And it's going to be there from the 2nd of September until the 20th of November. So that's a short stay, but I am interested to see what happens there. But in the meantime, this moon does feel somehow important. But I suppose there are quite a lot of elections going on and everything this year, so maybe it's something to do with that. Yeah. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say, because it just feels important that there were 2 Capricorn full moons this year in a year that we are having elections. I'm sure it's not a coincidence.
Wow. Well, perhaps after those moons, we can get back together and have a little reflection, as well as, you know, updates to see, to see where we're going. Absolutely love connecting with you ladies. As we know, we can talk for a lot longer, but I will I will let you go now. But yeah, thank you so much. Of course, both these ladies, their links will be in the description, and I highly recommend that you book a session with both of them. And yeah, so thank you, ladies, and thank you for anyone that's made it to the end of the video.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Deborah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.